Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. So let me check in the chat. Good morning, Leisha. Good morning, Viviane, Samira, Camille, Simone, Rodrigo, Maria, Teacher Denise. Thank you all for being here. I really want you guys to know that I feel so much flattered to be here talking to all of you. And thank you, Giselle. And good morning from a beautiful São Paulo. This is a beautiful day here, a beautiful sunny day, a bit cold, but too sunny, which is cool. Good morning. So we have people from Peru. Wow, that's amazing. Welcome, everyone. Tell me where you're from and what you do. If you're a teacher, if you're a coordinator, tell me in the chat. Okay. I'm just looking down because I'm following everything that's going on in the chat, right? Okay. Belo Horizonte, Itaparica. Welcome, Nayara. Welcome, Renata. Curitiba. Welcome, Ruti. Okay, we have teacher Carol from ESI São José. Is that you, Carol? Welcome. Belém. Welcome, Patrícia. Salvador, Diadema, Cusco, Peru. Wow, this is a wonderful place. Thank you all guys for being here with us and for giving us some of your precious time to be here to work it on development. Okay, so I think you're good to go. So again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session. My name is Rafael, and I work as an academic consultant for Cambridge University Press, Brazil. Today, I'll be talking to you about my golden tips for optimizing the teacher's role when dealing with the online and also the digital. But just before we start, let me just give you some housekeeping info. So first things first, certificates will be available on Saturday on, for those of you who's registered via Simpla. This recording will be made available on SBS's YouTube channel later on. And finally, but never less important, I really want you guys to enjoy this session and please be active in the chat because I want to hear from you what you think about it. Okay, so this is our agenda for today's session. We're gonna get started with some theory of technology and language. And then we'll move to talk about the technology journey. And then I'll talk to you guys about my assumptions for this webinar and my top 3 golden tips. That's what we're here to talk about. And I promise you guys, I will be brief and not spend too much time talking about theories, but please allow me to spend some time, because this is important in order for us to draw attention for all the practical tips I have and I want to give you and everything that is ahead of us, okay? So I promise I'm going to get started with some theory, but that's gonna be brief. Okay, so first things first, I want you to tell me in the chat, please, what in your very opinion makes a good learning experience? So while we actually have a little delay, I'm going to give you some insights meanwhile. So perhaps a good learning is when we want students to feel confident, or maybe we want them to feel empowered, just like Adele, or when we want to see them really enjoying what they're doing. Or perhaps we want them to just walk away with this feeling, yes, I can do it. I'm learning, and you know what? I've just nailed it. So please tell me in the chat. Interaction, very good. Being involved, playing safe, confident, hands-on. Wow, Marcela, that's wonderful. Thank you. I completely agree. Actually, I couldn't agree more. What else? Okay, good morning, Eduardo Luiz. Good morning and welcome. Willingness, that's a beautiful word. Thank you. What else, guys? Being safe, you know what? I love this. Being safe, especially if you're talking about pre-primary students. Being safe, it is super important. Enjoying what you're doing, learning has to be fun. Absolutely, they have to be involved. We have to take their interests into account. Very good. I think good learning happens when the students feel happy. I completely agree. Because it's very much linked to emotions, right? Okay, be fun, good morning, being engaged and involved. A lot of students' participation. That's good. Interaction matters a lot. Okay, confidence. Thank you all for giving me your insights. So, reflecting on this theme on the theme for this event, keep it teaching, humanizing the use of technology in education. I cannot avoid highlighting these three keywords: humanizing, technology, and never less important, actually, on the other way around, education. And I cannot avoid not only highlighting these keywords, but also wonder what they have in common, or maybe if there's anything that really set them apart somehow. So there could actually exist some thoughts that might even consider technology and humanity as some sort of opposing ideas. But if we consider technology as something that's going to replace us, actually, we're not talking about everything that has evolved in terms of technology, you know? So pretty much like this idea of replacing the technology, replacing the human, evolves around the Industrial Revolution period of time, in which there was this transition from hand production to machines and manufacturing, right? But the truth is, it's actually the opposite. It's actually the total other way around. So I'd like to draw an analogy here between the words technology and technique. So technique meaning knowing how to do something. This ability, this concept that you have, that being able to do stuff, you know. So if we take this analogy between technology and technique, the history of technology and its whole evolution process shows that technology could actually be defined as a technique of language translated scientifically. So in this sense, as Marshall McLuhan suggests, technology is then an extension of the human being, you know? It is an extension of our intelligence. It has to be faced and understood as pretty much like as an advance of the human existence, in an advance of our own abilities. So it says so much more about us that it tends to replace us. As I just mentioned earlier, it's pretty much the other way around. It's the opposite, you know? So our history shows us that many different layers of transformations we have gone through, we have had in terms of language. And by saying language here, I mean linguagem. That's why I chose this sentence to be in Portuguese. So this is actually not a slip of mine. It is really intentional. So please tell me in the chat. I want you guys to reflect for a moment, for a second. And tell me in the chat what linguagem, is to you in this context of the human evolution and all of these transformations we've been through. So tell me in the chat, please, think of language as these different tools we use to create access to our reality. And of course, even convey messages and meaning, because this is also super important. Please tell me in the chat. What language is to you, linguagem is to you, in terms of this timeline we have and the evolution process of technology? Way to pass knowledge. Very good, Patricia. Thank you. What else? Body language. I completely agree, Liliana. Body language matters a lot. And this is a very complex system of actually conveying a message. That is a tool. What else, guys? Please tell me in the chat. Images. Very good, Anna. Gestures. Okay, miming. Good. Perfect. When you think about technology, okay, linguagem as a way of communicating. Very good, Aline. That is the point. Way to receive, pass, and improve knowledge transmission. Thank you, Huchi. That's the point. Body language to communicate, means to convey meaning. Body language, a lot of body language, I completely agree. Okay, so this is very nice, guys. So let's try to put this in a timeline then. As I mentioned earlier, there are many different layers of transformations we have had in terms of language. So I can say the first one could be the ability to speak, because as I'm able to speak, I'm able to recognize my own existence. And most importantly, I'm able to recognize others' existence. So the second point would be the printing press, because we're talking about the Gutenberg's revolution, the Gutenberg's galaxy that has lasted for over 4 centuries. The third would be the photography. The next one would be the radio and the television. So a whole new way of communicating and exploring the world evolved. That's when the mass media emerged, you know? And finally, the computer and internet, allowing the digital media to finally rise, you know? So again, there are many different waves of transformations we have had in terms of language. And all of these events are not only considered milestones in the history of our evolution, but they show us all of these extensions using McLuhan words we just saw in the previous slide, that have shaped the human presence in this biosphere and in this earth, you know? So there are many different tools or many different technologies of communication, technologies of language. So you see how language is incorporated into the concept of technology. So in other words, technology is not a dependence of the human being, but it actually is an inseparable bond between the human existence and these expansions we created to access our reality. So when we are born, new humans learn this whole complex mechanisms of language as a way to access the reality we live in. We all have this necessity to communicate. As Lacan suggests, the man who's born into existence is first with language. So that means we recognize and reaffirm our existence by using all of these technologies of language to access the world and our reality. So But this is it. This all of this talking, all of this theory is important to then guide you guys through the assumptions I have for this webinar. So my assumptions are the very first one: technology is faced as a way of accessing students' reality. Number two, technology says so much more about us than it tends to replace us. And finally, there has never been educational contexts that were not mediated by some sort of technology. And based on these ideas, let's go for the practical part, the hands-on part, the part that I love the most. So I will present to you what my golden tips are when dealing with the online and in this vast educational context world and digital media world. So my very first tip for you is something boring on a paper is still boring on a cell phone or on a laptop. So a very simple rule of thumb for you guys would be if a project or a lesson can be done using a paper or a pencil, but you're just doing this on a computer, then you're definitely not transforming your class, right? So just don't use technology for the sake of using it. Try to find a meaningful way of applying this to your reality. So people usually and casually refer the use of mobile devices to any learning activity that makes use of either a phone or a tablet, for example. Activities like searching information on Google, listening to something on podcasts, or even reading a book on ebooks. But there's a whole new world of possibilities technology can actually bring to the classrooms and that really go beyond this. So let's take this class as an example. So this page, this beautiful page, is from a book of ours called Global English in its level 1. So the learning objectives for this class are, I want to present vocabulary about the earth, and I also want to make students understand the different core layers that the earth has. So instead of asking my students just to Google it or find more info and then select what is more relevant according to their opinion, why not using this tip, augmented reality, as a way of presenting this new vocabulary and let them explore all the Earth's core on its own? So I'm going to try to do something. Please, fingers crossed. If God helps me, this is going to work. I'm going to try to cast my phone's screen to this PC because I want to give you a brief sneak peek of what augmented reality is all about. So please root for me. Let's go. So students can actually use augmented reality to actually interact with these objects in a very 3D way, and explore the whole core of the earth on their own instead of just going for the books and using their books. So let's see how cool this is. Let me connect my phone. Yeah, half of phone connected. Start metering, start broadcasting. Okay, let's see if this works. Fingers crossed. There you go. So this is my phone. Can you guys see this? Please tell me in the chat. Okay. Right, thank you. So what we're gonna do is, I'm going to use this Augmented Reality app in order for us to explore the Earth. Okay, I'm going to try to do this some other way. Sorry guys, this is real life, right? Scan poster. Okay, there you go. I'm having this. Is this going live? Oh God, I guess I'm gonna try to do this again. Open new room. Okay, I'm going to try to do this again. Sorry, this is really real life. This is teacher's reality, right? You know what I mean. But we are Brazilians, we don't give up. Connect. Start broadcasting. Okay, there you go. So this is my book. I'm going to scan this poster, and then the earth pops out of the book, and I can interact with the earth. Gosh. Okay. I'm really going to try this again. You know, I want to give you guys my best. So let's go. Connect. There you go. Start metering. Oh gosh. The cell phone is being stubborn today. Okay, I'm trying to do this again. Let me scan. Okay, the earth is popping out of the book. I tap on the earth, and there you go. I can explore the earth now. Let's see its interior part, its core part. See how cool this is? Wow, so students can actually see a lot of details on the core part of the earth. And when I tap on each part, I have information about this part. I can also understand the Earth's satellite. Let's explore. So I have this one, for example, which is Hubble. And I also have the second one, which is right over there. So you see, this is just an example. And this is such a very good way of interacting with your students. Let me just stop sharing. Thank you guys for being patient. You rock. Thank you guys. You actually rock my world. So unfortunately, I don't have much time to show you other apps and options, but just before we move on, I'd like to quickly show you this lesson on the digestive system. This lesson belongs to another course book of ours called Science Skills, and it's level 3. Alternatively, you can use this second app from the same company to guide your students through the whole digestive system. So I promise I'm going to do this again for the very last time, right? Please don't shout at me, don't be mad at me. What we do for the sake of education, right? Okay, I'm going to try to do this again and show you now the digestive system. Let me just get my book. There you go. Let me update my browser. Connect to my phone. Start metering, broadcasting. And there you go. And now we can explore the digestive system using augmented reality as well. So see how cool this is. So we can have information on the many different organs, see the details, see how everything works, you know? So this would be a second possibility of using augmented reality in your class, in your language class, especially if you're like teaching CLIL. So actually, who doesn't like teaching CLIL, right? So this could be a wonderful way of making your students really interested in the topic and analyzing on their own. Let them explore using the reality, this 3D reality, and on their own instead of just going for Google and look for information. This is so much more fun. So for both apps I've used during this presentation, they belong to this augmented reality solution called Korisztek. I've used its free features to show you guys how this works, but this company, this Korisztek solution, actually offers so many other options as well. So if you're interested, just Google it, right? Okay, so in case you wanted to learn more about augmented reality and how this actually works and all the apps that we have available in the market concerning augmented reality, I think it's really worth having a look at this article posted. So this article is about the 10 awesome augmented reality apps for the classroom. You can either scan this QR code or just use it at this address to access the website and learn more about augmented reality and how this actually works in real life. I think this could be a good article to read. So on top of everything we have seen so far, and concerning this tip number 1, I think it is super important to provide you guys with some extra information and ideas for using augmented reality in your class. So the approach I used here is the MAL approach, the Mobile Assistant Language Learning. So are you familiar with the MAL? Let me just put the chat. Let me go back for the chat because I want to see what you're writing. Just a minute. Okay. Right. There you go. So mobile assisted language learning. So I've chosen to actually highlight this approach because it actually brings so many different opportunities to learning, not only in a linguistical rich class, but also in a very immersive environment that absolutely takes students way beyond the classroom walls, So this could be a good idea to work on. There's also plenty of room for life competences. You can also add on top of everything this working on life competences. And I'm really having this delay on the chat. Sorry, let me just try to update the chat because I want to actually follow what you guys saying. There you go. I guess it's better now. Sorry, let me go back. So as I was saying, there's also plenty of room to work it on life competences. There are many different competences that could be developed right over here. But as an example, just an example, there are two that we could actually work it on. So creative thinking, because we want students to participate in creative activities, create new content, not only using their resources, but also their own ideas. And also critical thinking, because we want them to synthesize information and evaluate ideas as well. Okay, having said this, let's move on and go for my tip number 2. And my tip number 2 is, instead of prohibiting social media or cell phones, as we just studied, as I just mentioned in tip number 1, try to find the smart ways to use them. So these elements, let's put this way, these elements are already native for most part of our students, not only the social media, but also the cell phones, the mobile devices, and everything else, So I absolutely think we have to learn how to use them, not only in a meaningful way, but also in a way that really makes sense to what our learning objectives are, And I cannot avoid mentioning TikTok. So, sorry, TikTok, as you might know, is this wonderful app for making and sharing short videos. So users can edit, shoot videos just up with music, animation, and many different types of effects. And TikTok has actually become very famous for the dancing people like to have, pretty much like this one. And I cannot avoid mentioning the Reels, the Instagram Reels. So the Reels function on Instagram was launched more recently, and it does pretty much the same thing TikTok does. So alternatively, you can also use Instagram Reels. I think it's also a good idea to do so. But TikTok and Instagram Reels are not only about dancing. This is not only about dancing. It has proved to be so much more and give us so much better tools for working if we learn to take the best and the most out of it. So let's take these recent articles published as examples. So this very first one published from the New York Times says how TikTok is changing the way we deal with social media. The second one, also from the New York Times, talks about how a whole generation of boys using the app, the TikTok, and the Instagram Reels to help young men talk about fashion. This third one by Folha, and this third one was published actually this month. This is super recent. That covers an enormous amount of books being sold thanks to the so-called book talkers. Yeah, believe it or not, now we have the book talkers, not only the TikTokers, but also the book talkers. So book talkers are actually people using TikTok for storytelling and presenting the story of a book. And of course, this figure on the selling of books matters and matters a lot. But in my very honest opinion, the important thing to notice in this article is actually how these videos are sparkling students' curiosity for reading. So they are buying books because they have this stimulation, because they are interested, and because these videos somehow sparked their curiosity for reading. So this is something that is really interested. And finally, this fourth article published by Forbes, also this month, also super recent, in which it talks about how TikTok is already testing, as they like to say, this friendly resume video feature for the Gen Z. Oh God, does that make you cringe? If you know what I mean. This whole conversation about millennials, Gen Z, and the cringe stuff. Oh God. So the thing is, probably in a very soon future, we will have the option of applying for a job using a TikTok video. How crazy or how cool does that sound for you? Please tell me in the chat. I'm super curious. I got super interested in this article, actually. I'm cringe. I guess I'm cringe too. Okay, so let's move on. I'm really running out of time. And after all of this, we have to face the reality as it is. And the question that immediately pops to my mind is, if our students really spend a lot of time on social platforms like TikTok and consuming this media that is already native for them, why not creating an opportunity, a real opportunity to learn something on these platforms too? And I can't avoid quoting Herbert Purta now. So Herbert Purta is a course book writer who's very much interested in the fields of cognition and how we learn. So he says the brain needs emotion to learn. The brain needs emotion to learn. See how powerful this is. So that means we want our students to have fun. We want them to feel empowered. We want them to be able to apply everything they have learned with us in front of us in their real life. We want them to walk out of our class with this feeling of, I've nailed it. So pretty much like this discussion we had earlier on in this webinar, you know? So I'd like to suggest some ideas on how to use these short videos in your language class. A lot of people are already doing this, and I think we have to learn to apply all of this talking and all of this new things that are coming in educational contexts as well, right? So the first type of video could actually be something around vocabulary input that I'd like to suggest. And as the Olympic Games is just around the corner, I decided on producing my own vocabulary input video on sports. So let's have a quick look at it and tell me later what you think.
Olympic Games vocabulary check. You win or lose a game or a competition. And when you win, you beat the person or the people you are competing with.
So this is super funny because I want to teach them the difference between win and beat. So we don't want, instead of saying, I think we can win this team, I think it's better for us to say, I think we can beat this team, we know? So this is an input vocabulary video that I want my students just to have an idea, we know. And of course, this is just an example. You can actually think of many other intentions that you could have, intentions like using input vocabulary video as a consolidation practice. So maybe if you taught something in your class and you want them to consolidate this later on, alternatively, you can also think about producing input vocabulary videos as a flipped activity. Maybe if you want them to get to know something before the class, so we produce a video already giving them some idioms, expressions, whatever that is. And of course, we can also, a third option would be presenting and making input vocabulary videos on phrasal verbs, idioms, expressions. This works a lot, we know, and this could be such a great way of doing this. And so far, we are discussing the teacher's view, but it's even more important to consider the student's view. I guess it's even really more important to consider their view because we want them to learn, we want them to produce. So, for example, try to find ways to encourage your students to make their own videos out of what they have learned from yours. And a good example could be, for example, we are having the Olympic Games. This is happening in real life. So if your student sees an athlete using the same word or the same expression, using beat or using win, that you just taught in your input video, maybe your students can reply to yours showing these examples used in real life by this athlete. If he perhaps listened to an athlete giving an interview to a reporter about something and he mentions the word, maybe your student can take advantage of this realistic and authentic use of language and produce their own videos to reply to yours, you know? So it's pretty much like applying the target language taught in a more meaningful way, you know? I don't know if that makes sense for you, but please tell me in the chat. I hope it does. So a second type of video I would like to suggest to you guys is actually to respond. I want students to respond to something. It's pretty much more similar and close to an activity. So let's watch this second video, for example, and tell me what you think later.
C2 Proficiency, Cambridge Exam, Reading and Use of English, Part 3. Use the word given to form a word that fits the space. Ready? Let's go. All children ask why we should bother reading. Now, 500 years after Gutenberg's printing press, reading recent advances mean psychologists may be able to find an answer.
So in this example, I want to help students prepare for a Cambridge exam by using the different papers and sections the exam has. And guys, just a parenthesis over here, if you allow me. I apologize for making you guys have an overdose of me in the videos, but I would rather use my own imaging because of the copyrights and images used instead of using someone else's images, you know? This is gonna be public, this is being recorded, so I'd rather use my own image. So I apologize for making you guys really have this overdose of me in the videos. So another option of an activity that you could actually produce with your student, it's actually this third video I'd like to present to you on global warming and the climate change. Tell me what you think about this one. So let's watch.
Practice your English. Global warming and climate change, C1 level. So can you tell me what global warming is? Okay. Right. And what's the difference between global warming and climate change? Right. Perfect.
Okay. And finally, because I'm really running out of time, sorry, but nevertheless important, I want to show you a third type of video which works as pretty much like as a role play. So let's have a look at this one.
Casual conversation practice. You read the red, I'll read the blue. Hey, what are you up to today?
Just hanging out with some friends.
Cool, where are you gonna go?
To the park, then the pub. Wanna come?
Sure, a mate of mine's in town as well. Can he come too?
Of course. Does 4 o'clock work for you?
Great, just send me the location and we'll meet there.
Perfect. See you later.
So the idea here is to offer students an opportunity to really practice their English in many different scenarios, you know? So for example, we can think of an activity in a scenario of a situation going on in a restaurant, or maybe a situation of talking on the phone, and also thinking about producing videos for many different levels, for A1 level students, for A2, for B1, for C1, we know. So there are so many different opportunities and possibilities when you're thinking about TikTok and those videos. So please now tell me in the chat, what other type of video activities can you think of? Would you do anything in a different way? Please tell me. I really want to know your opinion and your input on it. Let me just go back to the chat. Okay, I really want to know what your practice is. Perhaps if you have any other insight or something that you already do with those videos. So collaboration matters a lot. Elizabeth, it's hard to make videos for me. I understand. We know, I promise we can think it about, I have my own Instagram account. I'm going to give you guys later on. And we can think it about some tutorials, produce some fast and quick tutorials for teachers on how to actually produce and make those videos. Tell me what you think. Is that something that you would be interested in? Students can record their opinion about a topic. Absolutely, this is a very good idea. This is Claudia, right? Claudia, thank you so much. As they love music, I propose a not. Wow, that's amazing. A parody or a cover of a famous artist. So this is awesome. This is such a good idea. I use videos for shadowing on rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation. This is so cool, Huchi. I'm going to follow you later on to actually see the videos that you produce. I'm super interested, to be honest. So students concentrate a lot. Yeah, definitely. We know what, we have to take advantage of the things they're already interested in and the things they already do. Yeah, definitely. So let's move on. So the approach here for tip number 2 is the micro-learning. So where we want to deliver all of our content in a brief, dynamic, and of course, accessible way for our students. So learning experiences definitely should allow learners not only to express themselves, but also, I guess, and in my opinion, it should follow their interests, you know? It's important to nurture students' interest, to let them apply their interest to our class. So it's really important also to work towards their personal goals, engage them in the creation of their own content. And of course, we're doing everything. And on top of it, we are also raising awareness of strategies for the development of their listening and their speaking. So this is a wonderful thing to do, right? And the life competences here could be creative thinking, so employing new ideas and content, engaging in an activity, and making an assignment original by adding new angles, by having new perspectives. You see how cool that is? So I have this, which is very associated with the dancing thing. And I understand there is a whole new perspective. There is a whole new possibility of me in order for me to apply this to an educational scenario. So that's what I do. That's what creative thinking and critical thinking is all about, you know, trying to find new angles, new perspectives of everything. And of course, learning to learn, because we want them to find sources of many different sources of information and identify helpful resources for their learning. Okay, and my final tip for you, and finally my tip number 3, which is look for tech tools that let students not only learn from themselves, but also each other, you know? So this is actually a reading project that I'd like to suggest now in order to illustrate my tip number 3. So it's it's something that I called our reading project. So the idea here is to have students take turns recording themselves as reading classroom books out loud and post these recordings in a collaborative Padlet later on. So each recording is actually approved by me, by the teacher, and the teacher actually helps students evaluate and consider factors like their intonation, their emotion. Remember when you said Herbert Sputa, you need emotion to learn. Their emotion when reading, their speed, and of course, their accuracy when reading out loud. So all of the recordings are posted in this Padlet so that it allows students to hear the different choices that their classmates made when reading pretty much the same thing they did. So, and I have to confess at the very beginning, students might think that fast reading is actually fluent reading. But after reading aloud and hearing their friends and the differences, they understand the importance of pacing and the importance of emotion when reading and when reading out loud especially, you know? So in this first moment, That's what I want them to do, just to record themselves. So in a second moment, kids can later re-record themselves and compare their recordings to see how their performance have evolved after practice and after those analyses that we've been through, you know? So Padlet allows you as a teacher, I guess this is also important, to approve posts before they all go in public. And we also have the possibility of filtering that language if there's any, you know. And a third moment, I want them to reflect on what they have learned themselves, and I want them to give me some input on what they have learned in a third column, a third separate column, you know. So not everyone knows, but Padlet offers the voice recording function as a native function. So students can actually record themselves using the app. So you don't actually have to use a voice recorder, an extra voice recorder, and then import this file into your Padlet, because you can do this using your Padlet itself, you know? So the thing is, you just have to download the app. The app is this one I'm showing you I'm showing you guys in this slide. You know, it is called Padlet app. And after that, what I want my students to do is just to click it on the plus button in order for us to create a new post. So after that, we just click it on the three dot icon that you have right next to the camera in the post, in the writing of your post, you know. So when you click it in the three dot, there's gonna open up a new screen, which is gonna give you the possibility of the audio recording function. So you just finally click and hit the audio recorder function, and then you're ready to go and to record everything and to do this using Padlet, you know? So for this tip number 3, I wanted to offer you an example of an activity that works in a mall and also in a micro-learning approach altogether. So I wanted to think of an activity for my tip number 3 that could actually integrate both of the approaches we analyzed earlier on. So and of course, some of the life competencies for this activity could be creative thinking, because it involves the creation of new content from other resources. Critical thinking, because we want students to evaluate performance and, of course, identify interferences. And, of course, never less important, learning to learn, because we want them to find resources of information to learn. So, these were my top 3 golden tips for you guys. So my number 1 is something boring on paper is still boring on a cell phone or a laptop. Just don't use technology for the sake of using it. Try to find meaningful ways of doing this. My second tip was, instead of prohibiting social media, try to find smart ways to use them. And my third was look for tech tools that let students learn from themselves and also from each other. Collaboration is super important. And of course, a different number of strategies and intentions have to be considered here. Like if you take it into account, not only tip number 1, but number 2 and number 3. So for example, the creation and the sharing of multimodal texts and content, communicating spontaneously with people, this capture of authentic language use, you know. So we want students to really reflect and analyze it on their progress, on their language production, and I want them to reflect on their learning needs. So again, there are a number of different strategies to be used with this tips, you know. So here at Cambridge, we are working with educators and teachers to understand how these skills all of these life competences can actually integrate into your English class. So that's why we have developed this beautiful framework, which is called the Cambridge Life Competences Framework. So if you are interested or if you want to get more info, please visit cambridge.org/CLCF. And then you find so much about this framework. Okay, as we're just about to finish, I have to tell you Cambridge Day is going to happen next week, our event. And I'd like to invite all of you guys to join us for this super special edition, a special edition that is going to celebrate 20 years of the Cambridge Days event. So please register for our event, which is going to happen next week, either scanning this QR code or just going and using this website and register for the event. I hope to see you guys there. So a huge, 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 and a super special thank you to SBS for having me. And thank you guys all very much and from the very bottom of my heart for being here and for giving me some of your time. So in case you want to talk to me or watch my reels, the videos I posted earlier on, this is my Instagram account. Actually, I have a bit of a confession to make. This is a brand new Instagram account. I created this Instagram account yesterday. So this is super new because I wanted to have a way of interacting with you guys. So if you want to talk to me, or perhaps if you want to share ideas, or maybe if you want a sneak peek of TikTok, Reels, or whatever that is, or more tips, please get in touch. I would be super happy to talk to you guys. I feel super honored and flattered for having had the possibility and opportunity of being here. Thank you very much. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. See you.